Great to see everybody. Welcome to signing day part 2. Can feel the excitement in the air. It's palpable. I hope you guys are excited as I am. But certainly a combination of a year's worth of work to add these 8 guys to the 14 that we signed in December. And certainly, feel it's important to express our thanks to the people who made this thing happen. Mike Villagran and our recruiting staff, working tirelessly to identify, our prospects, organize all the recruiting weekends, set up our travel on the road. Those guys have done an unbelievable job. Our assistant coaches who have worked on getting to know these guys, cultivating relationships with the families and the coaches, sometimes over two or 3 years for this class, and then certainly the high school coaches in the great state of Mississippi and in the surrounding areas for allowing us to recruit their student athletes, and lastly, most importantly, the families and the players for their belief in us, in our vision and our culture, and the things that we have to offer at Mississippi State academically and athletically. Certainly very grateful to them. Looking at this class singularly for who we added today, and then kind of in its totality, very excited with the 22 guys, 11 from Mississippi, 3 from Alabama, 2 from both Florida and Tennessee, and then 1 from Georgia, Louisiana, New Jersey, and North Carolina. Pretty good balance, 11 on offense, 10 on defense, and then 1 specialist. And when you look through, there's always a delicate balance in roster management and recruiting, of making sure you're addressing positional needs while at the same time recruiting the best available players regardless of position. And I think we did a good job along those lines. When you look at it, we won't talk specifically about the guys we added today, but also mention the guys in the first class, starting at quarterback, Garrett Schrader, 4-star consensus top 300 player, could have gone to just play about anywhere in the country, a mid-year enrollee, and he's doing a real nice job for us right now. Excited to see him in the spring. Running back position, we were planning to add 2, and we did, with the departure of Aries and D. Lee. Added a junior college prospect today. Kareem Walker, I've known him since his days in New Jersey, kind of took the path from there to Ann Arbor, to Kansas, and now here. I believe he was the number 2 or 3 ranked running back in the country when he came out of high school. Certainly has done a good job there, and excited to see a more mature and seasoned version of him to come here and provide veteran experience. And certainly, if you all read the SB Nation article yesterday on Lee Witherspoon, I think that's something that we're going to have to continue to do at Mississippi State, as we're striving to achieve our goals to become a championship team, that we may not always get the 5-star prospects, but we're going to find guys who are a little bit under the radar. And for a guy to average 19.2 yards a carry and score almost 60 touchdowns in his first year as a tailback, I think we're all going to be excited about the things that Lee brings to the table. At the receiver position, today we added Javonte Payton from Northwest Community College in Mississippi, number 2 JUCO prospect in the country, coming out at his position. I think he can play the Z. I think he's going to come in and have an opportunity to compete right away. And I think he brings a unique skill set of speed, size, and athleticism. Adding to that, in-state prospect Keziah Pruitt did a great job in the Miss Al game. Was banged up with injuries a little bit early on in the year, but finished very strong. And then certainly Q Torber from down in Louisiana, competed for the state championship down there. They got real close to it, but really improved as the season went on. Excuse me, didn't add any tight ends at the offensive line position today. Added 1 offensive lineman today, Brandon Cunningham from out of St. Martin's, a great in-state product who could probably play tackle or guard for us. And on top of that, Charles Cross, the number 2 ranked player in the state, 5-star early enrollee. Nick Penley, whose recruiting has heated up at the tail end of that as much as anyone in the country. LaQuinston Sharp, local JUCO product. Brevin Jones from Alabama. Who am I missing, guys? Did I miss one there? Offensive line was. Did I hit all 5? Yeah. Good there. Okay, defensive line. Obviously, today's big addition was Nathan Pickering out of seminary. 4-star, top 10 prospect in the state. Could have gone just about anywhere. Long-time commit. Excited we were able to keep him on board. So certainly very excited about the things that Nathan brings to the table. Didn't bring any linebackers in. Obviously, Jack Harris from out of Oak Grove, Kingani, who was enrolled, And then DeMonte Russell, another guy out of Provine Instate, who was a top 100 guy. We're really excited about his future. And then at the defensive back position, where we were hit hard with graduation, I think we did a great job adding safeties there. Fred Peters already enrolled, expecting him to compete. J.P. Purvis, a guy who I think was one of the more underrated prospects in the country. Then adding Colin Duncan today, who's a guy with great intelligence, great football IQ, a lot of ability. Had a lot of people chasing him down the tail end, so real excited to add him. And then the coordinator position, obviously Jarion Jones from In-State at Northwest Rankin. Martin Emerson, a huge get today, had to fend off, some In-State schools in Florida and a bunch of other people for him. A lot of length, a lot of size, a lot of athleticism there. Dylan Lawrence is a guy who we listed as a corner, but really not quite sure what he's going to play. Brings a lot of height, a lot of speed, a lot of athleticism. 6'4" frame. I think his best ball is ahead of him. And then the last guy in the class, Corliss Waitman, the punter, grad transfer from South Alabama, who Coach Jones, was with. And I think he's a guy that's going to come in with 1-year eligibility and, do a great job competing and give us an opportunity to upgrade at that position. So certainly very excited. Love the guys we brought in today. Great addition to the 14 that we signed early. And, depending on what, service you subscribe to or believe in, we're another top 25 class for us. And certainly one for us to build on heading into the future with, our 2020s already having 6 kids committed in that class and, heading in the right direction there. So, any questions?
Get a mic to you. Start with Tyler.
You mentioned rankings just now. How much do you look at rankings when you're trying to assess your class, and what does that ranking mean to you?
I think it's a barometer. I think it's a piece of information. I don't necessarily think it makes you or breaks you by any means, but I do believe, the people that run those services put in an inordinate amount of time, to try to get it right and be accurate. Certainly if you're keeping score, I and we want to be the best, so that there's a competition aspect to it. So I don't think it's something where you look at and say, hey, we need to be ranked in this area, but certainly, there is a correlation between recruiting ranking and success as much as you want to admit it or not admit it. So, for us to be in the top 25 now for the second straight year, with the number of 4- and 5-star guys that we added in addition to the under the radar prospects, I think it's a good piece of information. Those guys work hard, and it's something. I think they do a good job.
Steve in the back.
Coach, numbers-wise, a little bit short of 25. Do you have some plans to get to 25, or are you right around your target number?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily to 25. We made a conscious decision as a staff that we were going to look to address our positional needs. We were going to look to take best available, but kind of with the, the way the recruiting's going now and the availability of players, down the road through the transfer portal, that, we felt it probably benefited us to maybe have a couple left if we're able to find a guy with experience down the road that could help us address one of our glaring positional needs.
Joel?
How much did the late departures of Coach Baker and Coach Huff and those guys, how much did that impact this class and what you ended up bringing in?
Yeah, I think we did our best to to minimize the effect it had on the class, and I don't think you completely, kind of just stick your head in the sand and look the other way either. I mean, you're talking about guys who have built relationships with players that we had recruited, for well over a year's worth of time. So to say it didn't have an effect to me would be foolish. But I think having a plan and replacing them very quickly with incredibly competent and qualified people, certainly the running back position. Terry's a guy I worked with at UConn, who's got playing and coaching experience in college and the NFL, and has coached a bunch of pros and done an unbelievable job recruiting. So I think that helped. And then certainly Michael Johnson has coordinated in the NFL and in college, has developed a bunch of pro guys, and then Deke being an in-state guy, coached Davian Clowney and so on. So certainly with whatever it was, a week and a half or 2 weeks left in recruiting, to lose guys that had been recruiting people at key positions, less than ideal, but I think our response to that and our readiness and having people available and bringing them in quickly helped minimize a little bit of the effect on the class.
Paul?
Obviously, this is the second year of the early signing period. How do you kind of approach, not just this year, but moving forward, how do you approach the kids that for long-time commitments to you and don't sign in December, and how thin of a line is that walk in the next 2 months?
That's a good question, and I think that's, you know, something we're gonna have to continue to look at and address as a staff moving forward. You know, and I think that's one of the benefits of the early signing period, that the guys that want to be here, you know, they're gonna sign and, you know, be a part of the class, and the recruiting's over. And I think the thing that you need to kind of examine is the guys that are committed but don't sign. You know, what is their, are they taking other visits to confirm their commitment to the school, or are they taking other visits to, you know, enjoy the experience, for lack of a better term? And you know, that's always a delicate balance, and you're never really quite sure. So I don't know if there's a greater or a correct answer to it, but it's something that certainly merits more discussion by our staff moving forward. I don't know that you ever have the right answer, just, you know, because it's always such a fluid situation. No two, you know, recruiting. It's just no two kids' things are alike. So,
Brett?
You mentioned no linebackers in this
Yep.
class. Next year, you might have as many as 4 seniors and 5 juniors at that position. Did you want the linebacker in this class? And as you look at the transfer market going forward, is that a position that you might prioritize?
your sock game's strong then.
Always is.
But yeah, we, you know, certainly that was a position where we didn't, you know, lose anyone to graduation this year, so we didn't think there was an immediate need from a 1 year's perspective. You know, there were a couple guys we made a run at that we didn't get, and I think that goes back to the best available as opposed to positional need, if that makes sense. But you know, certainly from a, you always look at it as at a 1 year need and 2 year need. So the 2020 class is one where I would highly anticipate us taking 1 or more linebackers at that position.
Steve?
Coach, the Dylan Lawrence situation, kind of touch and go here in the final days. You finally pulled the trigger on that offer. What was that moment like, kind of communicating that with him and his reaction?
Yeah, we had been in contact with Dylan, and he had always, you know, been around. If y'all had kind of been in a bunch of games, you know, a guy that grew up, you know, as a state fan and wanting to be here. And there's part of me, you know, that means something too. And certainly, you know, he has the ability, he has the upside. He's another one of those guys that's under the radar, where you look back, and I was kind of looking at some of the rankings, and you know, Montez Sweat coming out the year that he signed was the 51st ranked JUCO prospect in the country, and like the 7th in the state. I mean, it was something ridiculous where you look back and say, well, you know, now he's a first round pick. So I guess that's the beauty of recruiting, that it is an inexact science. And you know, there may be a guy that you recruit that has no stars or 3 stars and ends up being an NFL guy, and you know, there's 5-star guys. It doesn't always, you know, pan out the way it's supposed to on signing day, and that's part of our job as coaches, to make sure we develop them. And I think he's got a lot of upside, a lot of potential, and I'm not sure we'll end up positionally, but I think his best football is ahead of him.
Heading into the day, there were a lot of in-state guys, big name in-state guys still available. Jonathan Mingo, Jerry Neely, Charles Moore. When you woke up today, did you have a feeling that those guys might still be on the table for you? And how might you look at this class differently if you got one or maybe multiple of those guys?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And I think, you know, not being able to comment on any of those guys specifically because they're signed at other schools, but going back to day one, and as it was this year and it'll continue to be in the future, we're going to do everything we can, first and foremost, to concentrate on keeping the best players in the state of Mississippi home. And you know, we've done everything that we could, you know, throughout this cycle to make sure that happened. And I think we believe we signed 5 of the top 20, if I'm not mistaken. When you look at the numbers, and you know, a good number in the top 10. So you know, we made our run at all the ones that we you know, felt would you know, upgrade us, you know, as a football team. And you know, I think we hit on our fair share when you go back and look at it.
Steve?
Coach, Nathan Pickering said back in June, the day he committed, he planned to take his visits, but still sign with Mississippi State, proved to hold true to his word there. How big was it to have him be such an advocate for the program on social media with other recruits?
Yeah, particularly as Joel mentioned with the late change there. You know, I think that was huge. That Nathan always had a firm belief in myself, our defensive staff, our university, and our football program. And for him to kind of, you know, be a guy that could have just gone about anywhere in the country if he wanted to, you know, through thick, through thin, through high, through low, through all the changes, that he remained steadfast and firm in his commitment to us, and was relatively vocal about it, you know, through the latter stages of the process. You know, there's been a long history of defensive linemen in this state who have decided to stay home at Mississippi State, and, you know, gone on to great success on the field and in the classroom, and I believe that Nathan will be, you know, the next guy in that line. And, you know, like I said, I appreciate the heck out of him and his family, because, you know, they held true to what they said they were going to do.
Anything else? All right, thank you.